Christ YahShua in the Yoga Sutras. The Yoga Sutras are said to be the ultimate treatise on yoga, or one of the ultimate treatises on yoga. They are said to have been taught and written down by Sage Patanjali, or Patanjali. Now, Sage Patanjali is a very interesting character himself. The name tells a big part of the story, and so do a lot of the statues and depictions of him. He is usually depicted as a human, but he is often depicted with the body of a snake or the head of a snake, part snake, or sometimes all snake, sometimes also with several snakes. This is quite telling, again, in conjunction with the name itself, because Patan in Sanskrit means snake, and Patanjali is pretty much the king of the snakes. We that know about the seraphim angels, or Suras, know that the seraphim get that name again from Sera, Serpa, which is also a synonym for snake in Sanskrit. Full disclosure, Sage Patanjali may have been a regular human, or there are alternate possibilities. He may have been a Nephilim hybrid, part man, part snake, or he could have also been 100% snake, that is to say, 100% seraphim, a fallen entity, or not. He could have been, even a regular seraphim. There's nothing really regular about them, that might have made his way down to earth to be a teacher of mankind. Whatever the case may be, your guess is as good as mine. We might never know the full story. But again, the statues, the depictions, the images, the drawings, the temples, and the name Patanjali, King of Snakes, is quite intriguing. That's something that we have to keep in mind when we're reading the Yoga Sutras. Was he a fallen seraphim trying to atone for his rebellion against the Almighty? Or was he a God-sent seraphim sent to earth to be a teacher of light, of the real light, of the true light of the Creator for mankind? Or was he just a very advanced human being? We might never know the answer. But when you read the texts, and I invite you to read the text, you might find some insights. As Christ himself said, by their fruits you shall know them. And that is actually the litmus test of any teacher, or of any purported teacher or teaching. See what fruits it bears, and you shall know what kind of vine or what kind of tree that you have taken shelter under. And again, I know I repeat myself a lot, but there might be some listeners that haven't watched all the videos, and they might be listening to this video for the first time. I know there's listeners that are very advanced. There's some people that are more in their beginning stages along the journey. Whatever the case may be, I invite you to be patient and look at the material, study it on your own. Let me know your thoughts. Please comment, like, subscribe, and share the material if you find it interesting. So John 21:25 tells us Jesus did many other things as well. If every one of them were written down, I suppose that even the whole world would not have room for the books that would be written. Again, that's quite mysterious. How much more did Christ YahShua teach his disciples? Didn't have time to pass on to us, or they didn't want to, or they were censored, or writings were destroyed, or Christ himself told them not to tell, because there were instances in the Bible where he tells them to not divulge certain things. Another passage that I love about the Gospels, I love all the Gospels, one that just quite stunning is John 16:12. Much more to say to you, more than you can now bear. What is he talking about? And what can we not bear? Maybe the full truth, the weight of the full truth, and the power of the full truth is just too much for even the best of his disciples to bear, let alone us, we people, in today's modern world. The arrogance of trying to say or think that we know everything there is to know about Christ is just stupidity at its finest. He himself tells us several times, just going to pretty much tell us what we need to know basis. As you go along, he's going to start divulging information, revealing truths to you when you are prepared to receive them, when you are pure enough and worthy enough to receive them. And there's several fail-safes along the journey. If you're too arrogant, if you're too proud, if you're deceitful, if you're, two-timing snake, all pun intended, then he's not going to reveal himself to you. He's not going to reveal higher truths to you. If you're hungry for power and lustful for the worldly pleasures, try again. You're not going to get there. So again, these are very important things to keep in mind. I invite you to compare what is being said in the Gospels by yourself with what the yogic and Vedic literature is saying. A little more about Patanjali. So we kind of get a feel for who is talking to us through these timeless teachings of wisdom. This is not a video about the Yoga Sutras. This is a video about the Yoga Sutras mentioning Christ YahShua. I still want to give you some context. Patanjali is said to have been a spiritual master, an actual realized enlightened being, whatever the case might have been from his origin or his physical constitution, or if he was entirely human or non-human or half human. The thing is that in the scripture itself, he gives us several methods of yoga, and he also tells us about supernatural abilities. It is kind of simple to conclude that Sage Patanjali, was a supernatural being. He was a being, that has realized the full capabilities of a human being. He's not like us today, like me, for example, a retarded, infantile cocoon of a human being that hasn't, actually blossomed into full capabilities of a human being. We can kind of contrast what the elites try to do to us and how they try to control us and manipulate us, and the demons and the entities behind the elites and the leeches and the energy vampires behind the parasites behind the elites, demonic parasites. That's the flip side of the coin. And it goes to show you why they do what they do, mainly because they do not want fully realized human beings, because they have zero chances against such a powerful creature. They have all the chances against us right now because we're mere cocoons. We're seeds that have gone astray. We've fallen in between the rocks. We've completely lost our way. Our minds are completely deformed. We haven't really manifested what we're here to manifest for several reasons. And I don't want to get too sidetracked on this subject, but it's a very interesting subject. What I'm trying to tell you is there's more to the story. There could be a lot more to the story than, just the evil elites and the demons that they follow are having their way with us and we can't do anything about it. Well, we can do a lot about it. And one of these things is to open our eyes to the truth, realize the truth, go back to the ancient scriptures, share the keys to the truth, use the keys to the truth, and then grow them, the development, so that we can actually devenir what we must as a human species or as an individual human soul. Patanjali is one such example, and so is Christ, but in completely different scenarios and completely different levels. So Patanjali is paying homage and respects and actually worshiping Christ YahShua in two shlokas, two verses in the Yoga Sutras. And he doesn't mention any other deity. That's quite telling. In the whole scripture, he doesn't mention Vishnu, he doesn't mention Sri Krishna, he doesn't mention Lord Ram, all due respect to all those incarnations and avatars. He only mentions Christ YahShua twice in two different verses, and I'll go into detail. Patanjali is not your average, local gym yoga teacher or hatha yoga teacher or hot goat yoga teacher. He's not a fake guru or a sold out guru or a black magic guru or any of these lunatics. He's the real deal. He's like the cat's pajamas. So some of the things he teaches in the Yoga Sutras in chapter 3 are, for example, just so you get a small taste of what this guy was capable of. So he teaches knowledge of the beyond, and he teaches how to achieve it. He tells the story about all of these things: knowledge of the sounds of creation, how to know your previous lifetimes, how to read minds, how to become invisible, how to know the future, how to have super strength, how to remote view things that are going on in a different place, how to know the stars. I mean, that's a who's who list of superpowers. He teaches knowledge of the body, so that's also how to like just pretty much fix your body however you want to fix it. Control over hunger and thirst. I don't mean like a regular 24 or 48-hour fast. I mean the real deal, like, week long or more. Stability of the body. He teaches how to have visions of siddhas and other, higher beings. He teaches how to illuminate the body. And this goes back quite eerily with the transfiguration of Christ in the mountains. So that's for another video, but just keep those in mind. How to have super senses, so just like Superman, super hearing, super eyesight, super smell. Where do you think the comic book people get all their ideas from? Do you think they come up with them? Think again, they don't. They get them all from the ancient texts because they know they're true, and they just gaslight you into thinking that it's fantasy, and then they hypnotize you so that you can never believe that to be true ever again. And you just, since you're young, that's why they put out cartoons and all this nonsense, entertainment, so that in your brain, that compartment is now exclusively for fantasy, and you can never think of it again as a real possibility in real life. But it is. It's a fact that all these things are possibilities, and they were real in the past, and they can be real again. He teaches shape shifting. He talks about how to walk on water and how to levitate. Like, read him. Don't take my word for it. He also teaches about remote hearing, teleportation, transformation of size. So like Ant-Man or Hanuman. How to establish a force field around you, an actual force field that can stop bullets. How to make your body indestructible against, any weapon. How to make your body more beautiful. And telekinesis. Just, a few of the things he teaches in the Yoga Sutras. And that's just completely mind-blowing. You might think it's sci-fi. It's not sci-fi. It's completely 100% real, in my opinion. Again, all these videos are my opinion, my take on it, just sharing my thoughts with you. But let me know if you have comments, if you think I'm wrong, if you think I'm right, if you have experiences that you want to share. I'm all ears, zero judgmental right here. This is completely open forum. So, you guys are welcome, please, by all means. So the main point is this kind of realized siddha, a being with supernatural powers of such magnitude that has mastered the physical world. He is paying homage and worshiping Christ Yeshua. Chapter 1, Sutra 41. It says something like this, and I apologize for butchering the Sanskrit. Kashina virter abijatas yeva maner grahatir grahana grahjeshu tachtatad anjanata samapatihi. Jumps out at me, the Yeshu means Jesus or Yeshua in Sanskrit. That's the name that's given and used for Christ Yeshua in Sanskrit. And, look at the slides, and you can research this on your own on Google, simple Google or YouTube search, and you'll see like hundreds or thousands of results. What is Yeshu in Sanskrit? And it's spelled usually with the S. Remember, they have a different script. They don't use the Western alphabet, but the pronunciation is the same, Yeshu. And, as soon as you see that, that's exactly whom they're talking about. And this is not me making it up. It's like if it said, Tom Cruise. And it said, Tom Cruise, motorcycle, accident. And you wouldn't think, oh, maybe they're talking about, Lara Flynn, or they're talking about somebody else. Who else is there? It's 100% self-evident and obvious. And anybody that speaks the language or knows the language can vouch for this. All right. So This is just complete proof. It's incontrovertible. It's irrefutable. It says it right there, Yeshu. Why don't the scholars see it? Because number one, they're not Christians. Number two, they're not looking for it. Number three, they might be working for the other side. They might be trying to hide this information. There might be plants or shells or agents. They might be working for the devil or for the demons, for the elites. But mostly it's going to be like you can only see what you understand and what your consciousness, your awareness can give you. Another thing also is that Yeshua, Christ, is not going to reveal himself to any old dummy. I mean, I've read these sutras, maybe 10 times or more in my life, and I've never seen it until just now, this month. So it just goes to show you it's a gradual process. And even in the book of Enoch, Enoch mentions that since the beginning, the elect, was the first created, and then he was veiled from all other entities. So even the angels, even the devas, and the higher beings can't perceive him because he has that power, that ultimate power. Just like, for example, Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars. The Jedi are right next to him and they can't sense him because he's more powerful in a way, and he can hide his powers from the lesser beings. It's the same with Christ Yeshua. Christ could be standing next to you and you wouldn't know it was him unless he wanted you to know. He could be standing next to the devil, and he actually did if you read the gospel. And the devil wouldn't necessarily know who he was. He might suspect, and that's why he tried to tempt him. You see? Now you can understand kind of what was going on there. So the devil might have guessed, okay, there's this legend, or there's this being, but I don't know if it's him, or the scriptures say, but I've never met him, and face to face, blah blah. And so there's a lot of play here that we just don't know. We can't really comprehend the magnitude of, but it is something quite like that, where this all-powerful entity can hide himself from lesser entities because he's just so much more powerful. And he can, like, if he doesn't want you to see that word, you're not going to see the word, period. Even if it's a word that you know. So let's translate it. And the methodology that I'm using, again, maybe some people can criticize it. Some people could say, hey, keys to the truth, you're using the wrong translations. You're mistranslating everything. Well, tell me how, because I'm showing you every single database that I could find, in the internet. You might have access to other databases that I don't, so please share them. But bring forth the evidence. This is all about evidence. Zero dogma here, okay? I'm trying to find the truth. If it's a lie, then it's a lie. But if it's the truth, then we have to go with it and see where it's going to take us. We can't really just, sugarcoat things. We have to be tough and tough it out, like for good or for worse, So if the truth is saying that Yeshua is mentioned in the Sutras of yoga, then what are the implications in your life, in my life, in everybody's life? So we have to be honest truth seekers in that sense. So what I do is, Sanskrit is so complex yet so simple. It's the first language, the language of God, the language of creation. And every single word has so many different meanings, so many synonyms. So what I'm showing you is this methodology I'm sharing with you is I include every single translation, and then I put them all together side by side, and then I start seeing the matching words. Okay, if 10 translations for the first word kind of match these other 10 translations for the second, and then match these other 5 for the third, then we have kind of a storyline. So, but the anchor piece or the angular stone is the name Yeshu in this particular shloka, because that's just completely self-evident, of what it says, of what it is. So this sutra, Kashina, the first word, means, quite interestingly, thin, emaciated, waned, became lean, diminished, worn away, expended, slender, delicate, wasted away, decreased, diminished, injured, broken, torn, feeble, wasted, delivered from distress, the sap of which is gone. All of these things apply exactly to the passion of Christ YahShua, to what happened to him when he was suffering for sins he did not commit. He had to pay a huge price. He was being tortured to death, literally, for something he didn't do. And these are just all synonyms of that's what's happening. And actually, one of their translations is purified after having suffered the consequences of sin. With sin gone. Whose sin? Not his, our sin. Which sin? The original sin. But there's more to the story, and I'll do that in another video, because there's something I'm getting a certain message that we might have done some kind of pretty terrible thing in our past through our advanced technology, that like opening portals to the underworld and letting the darkness in from our lust for more power, and that's what led also to the fall of the angels. And that would perfectly explain what's going on, and C.S. Lewis writes a lot about that in his first book. So I'll do a video on that as well. And also the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, which I don't like the Gnostic books. I don't read them. I really, they don't vibe with me. But there's also part of there that mentions that same storyline where humans were living in oneness with God, super advanced civilization, Vedic civilization worldwide, and then we just couldn't have enough. I think that's kind of what this is all is pointing to. We couldn't have enough. We wanted more and more and more, and so in our lust for power and material pleasures, we kind of opened these gates to the darkness, and and trying to be immortal and this and that and the other, and it just came back to haunt us, and it's still haunting us to this day until we live out that karma. But the point is, we can never atone for that kind of a sin. So that's precisely why Christ had to do what he did out of love. He didn't have to do it. He volunteered to do it. It's like, who is there? The Almighty, the Father asks, hey, who is there that can, make a sacrifice, a blood sacrifice that's going to be more powerful than that of the fallen angels on Mount Hermon when they did all the imprecations and the black magic to damn humanity, but that we had already partaken of that as well through our actions and our sin. And so there's no more powerful blood sacrifice than an archangel. And the only one that's more powerful is that of a God. And that's why exactly Christ did what he did. So, I mean, the devil never imagined that was possible. But it was, and it happened. So this is quite amazing. Kashina also means dove, pigeon. So something that's spotless, sinless. So, I mean, this is exactly the story of Christ on earth. So, read through the translations. The next word is vrita. And it means that someone lived, existed, happened, occurred, actually happened, performed. It means somebody that was famous or something that was famous, a historical account of news, tidings, conduct, a manner, an act, an action of virtuous conduct, established a rule, a law, a custom. Again, this is exactly what Christ did, So tell me if I'm wrong. Tell me if I need to pinch myself harder, because this is dead on what the gospel mentions. Established a rule, a custom, transformation, appearance, chosen, elected, appointed, This is all things that are related to who we know as Jesus Christ. I don't like using the word Jesus, but I'm becoming a little more flexible towards it because from the Yeshu, you just add the S at the end and you have Jesus. Although the Romans would have us believe that it's a bad word in Latin. So, whatever the case may be, this is all really, really mind blowing for me, guys. And so, the next words we have abijatas, which means of noble birth. It's a term generally used in conjunction with Jyotisha, which is the astrology in Sanskrit. Jyotish is luminary or light luminary. Jyotisha, Jyotishastra is the study of the Jyotish. Abhijatas means of noble birth, born, produced, nobly or well born, of noble descent, courteous, polite, fit, proper, worthy, sweet, agreeable, handsome, beautiful, learned, wise, distinguished, respectable. Nativity. It's the actual word for nativity in Sanskrit. So again, guys, we have the name Yeshu, and then we have nativity in the same sentence. So, oh my gosh, right? Am I dreaming or is this real, right? You tell me. It also means pure, faultless, nobility, handsome. And, again, from the Kebra Nagast, this book from Africa, we get a certain physical description of Christ. And he's described as very handsome, very, very good on the eyes, So and he of a high born looks somebody that is very, of high birth. And what higher birth than the birth of the King of Kings, the King of Hosts, the King of Heaven, the King of the universe. Please. So Eva here is kind of a suffix that it used to imply emphasis, affirmation. So he's saying Abhijatas Yeva. So he's not just saying, okay, this was the nativity, this was the noblest of births. He's saying, indeed, as a matter of fact, I emphasize that this was the noblest of births. All right. So again, this is completely mind-blowing stuff, if you ask me. Maner comes from manas, which means mind. It's the root of the word in English, mind. So maner is the grammatical declination, which means from his mind. From his mind. So he's considering, he's contemplating, he's regarding with his mind, and something is coming from his mind, from within somebody's mind. Grahatir means planet, celestial body, seize, grasp, grab, grip, hold, influence, over. And you might be saying, hey, Keys, there's no planets. Call them whatever you want. Call them marble stones. They're lights that we see in the sky, and in Sanskrit, as a matter of fact, they're called grahas, period. What they are, that's another subject, right? They're not rocks floating in outer space because there's no outer space. We know that. So get over the flat earth. It's a big key to the truth, but don't get stuck there with all the gatekeepers and all the shills on all the plants, which again are using that same strategy of just retarding your brain with one single subject and their Hegelian dialectic mind tricks. So get past it and use it. Put it under your tool belt and keep going. Keep going. What I'm showing you here, again, this is not meant to be the be-all, end-all of anything. This is meant to be just the beginning. The beginning, a new beginning. And from here, you guys are going to fly much higher than I ever could. And then you're going to show me and show the world much more. And ask God to share with you, and so you can share with others. So graha means planet in Sanskrit, period, end of story. It means a celestial being, a celestial body that holds influence. And it's the actual root of the word for grasp, grab. It's the gra, okay? That's exactly what it means. So when you see graha, you're talking about the Navagraha. It's the 9 planets. Grahana means grabbing, grasping, seizing, taking, influencing, because it comes from the influence of the luminaries on the mortal beings down here on earth. That's why it means all these things. Catching, receiving, accepting, taking. It also means eclipses, holding, mastering. Like your hand could be called a grahana because it's grabbing. but it's not the initial translation or the initial etymology within Sanskrit. The hand just takes its name, derivates it from these other meanings that I'm telling you. Okay, so this is, and he uses the word 3 times consequentially. You can look all this information. The Navagraha, the nine celestial bodies. So again, grahas could be, and they could be interpreted as benign or malign, or whatever the case may be. They have sway. They hold sway. They hold influence over our lives. Remember, astronomy is fake. Astrology is real. I'm not telling you to start worshiping these things, because then you would fall into delusion. But you need to only worship the Most High. But you need to be aware that these things are all real. So in the Navagrahas, the 9 Navagrahas in Jyotisha are the sun, the moon, the 2 nodes of the moon, and Venus, Mars, Jupiter. So you can research this more in depth, and I'll do some more videos on that subject later. But Yeshu, I mean, it's completely not a debate what Yeshu means. You can completely look this up yourself anytime you want. So from there we go to Tad. Tat means that. It's exactly the same as in English. Tat, that. Okay? But it also means that also means to raise or elevate something. So that, you're talking about that, but you're also talking about raising or elevating this. So I would assign that translation just because of all the context that we're getting. We're talking about grahas, grahati, graha yeshu. And I mean, guys, it's 3 words in a row. He's saying grahati, grahana, graha yeshu. I mean, what do you think he's talking about? And if graha means a celestial body or a celestial planet or a celestial being, a celestial influence, then what is graha yeshu? It means celestial Yeshua. That's exactly what he's saying. So he's saying, that he's celestial. He says this 3 times in a row. So celestial being, celestial body, celestial power, celestial position, celestial influence, celestial Yeshua. Okay, so and then Tad is elevated, is raised to, and Shta means to stand. It's actually the root of the word. Stand, Shta, stand. Just like in German, just like in English. Verstanden, ich stehe, I stand. And then Tad means, again, it can mean Tad as well, Tad. They can be synonyms, but it can also mean Tad with a D. It can be then, there, therefore. It can also mean to strike, to beat, or to hit something. Then Anjanata or Anjanata means anointed one. Anointed one. Guys, you can't make this stuff up. Am I dreaming here? Is it just me? Please let me know your thoughts on the subject. So Anjanata or Anjanata, I had to look it up indirectly because it's been scrubbed from the internet. No. I wonder why, right? I wonder why. So I went looking for the little part. So I found that Ajani is the ointment that you use precisely, or the oil or the ointment that you use to anoint somebody. So that's Ajas. And then Ajana and Ajas is the ointment that is used to anoint somebody with the oil. Remember what the words mean. So, I mean, this is why the keys to the truth, the language keys to the truth are so powerful, specifically the one in Sanskrit, because, the texts, people can burn them. The electronic formats, people can delete them. If you have them in some kind of media, the players can be destroyed. For example, if you had 8-track back in the day, and there's no more 8-track players, then you're screwed. You can't play them back anymore. So and if you had tablets, stone tablets, they can be, broken. If you had them written down on parchment or on wood, they can be burned. If you had big temples, they can be destroyed. And they have been, in fact, destroyed. So what happens is the language withstands the eons and the times and the yugas, because even though they've changed them and they don't allow us to speak our native tongues anymore, they still survive. The roots still survive no matter what, because the word of God is immortal. That's why. And so when we're doing all this, it's kind of like a forensic philology of sorts. Forensic philology of sorts. When we're doing kind of a forensic study on these etymologies. So we're digging to find the clues, to find the thumbprints, to find, any clues that we can possibly find to what really went on. And the language is always going to tell and code the story, because no matter how much they try to scrub it, it's still going to be there. So guys, please use these keys to great effect and discover much more truths. So ajana, again, is ointment. And then from there, I conclude, and let me know if I'm wrong, that ajanatas is the anointed one, because tas is somebody that has ajanata. So ta is somebody that has anjana. So who would be somebody that has ointment? Somebody that's anointed. That's as simple as that. So Yeshu is the anjanata, the anointed one that was lifted high, raised up. From there, we have samapati, or samapatihi. And this one is, again, there's so many definitions, but the one that stands out is the one that's used in spiritual circles, both in Buddhism and Jainism and other parts of the traditions, as being the state of highest consciousness, universal consciousness with the Creator. When you've reached that state of samapati, you're beyond samadhi, you're beyond nirvana, you're beyond anything, and you've become one with God, pretty much. And the only one he's attributing this to is Yeshua. Okay? So this is the ultimate state of consciousness. So from this, we can conclude the following. And the order here, you can change it, but it's not going to change the meaning. Remember, it's kind of like Yoda speaking. So they kind of say the end first and then the beginning, but you can switch it around. It's still going to mean the same thing. So something like this, it would go something like this. This shloka: attaining the state of infinite consciousness, the anointed one therefore stands elevated. From his mind he accomplishes celestial Yeshua, his celestial body and celestial influences. Indeed, of noble birth, having been emaciated, injured, torn, purified after suffered the consequences of our sins, the sinless dove lived, actually existed, famous, celebrated event in history, good, virtuous, established duty, rule, law, custom, transformation, appearance, the chosen one, the elect, appointed, turned, set in motion, studied the human condition and mastered it. Another syntax could yield the following: indeed, the nativity and the sacrifice of Yeshua really happened. From his mind, celestial Yeshua manifested his celestial influence. The anointed one was raised, stood after beating death, and achieved the state of ultimate consciousness and union with the Almighty. It's been a pleasure, guys. God bless you.